Grandma, help me.
I was stunned by the sight of my 7-year-old granddaughter seeking help while visiting my son's house. She was chained up inside the room. My grandchild's body, which I hugged in a hurry, was skinny. "Where are your parents?"
They locked me up and went on a trip.
Not only that, but she hadn't eaten or drunk anything for 3 days. I gave her tea from my bag and put caramel in her mouth, then called an ambulance in a hurry. My granddaughter closed her eyes in relief in my arms. I can't forgive them for doing such a horrible thing. I decided to send my son and daughter-in-law to hell in place of my helpless granddaughter. I'm Nancy, 62 years old. I work part-time at a 24-hour supermarket about 4 days a week. I live alone because my husband passed away 5 years ago. I'm not struggling to make ends meet because my husband left me some assets, but I wanted to work while I'm still healthy. My son Michael got married 8 years ago and lives in a house about 30 minutes away. My daughter Olivia got married 6 years ago and moved to the neighboring state, but I felt relieved because we could meet if we wanted to. Some people say that living alone is lonely, but it's free and easy. However, there was one thing that worried me. It was about my son's family. My son's wife, Sophia, is 10 years younger than my son. I was worried because she was only 18 when they got married. She met my son while working part-time at the convenience store where he worked as a manager. I was surprised when she came to greet me for the first time.
"Oh, you're Michael's mom? You're pretty young. I'm Sophia. Nice to meet you."
Huh? Pretty young? Oh. Nice to meet you. I'm Nancy.
You seem like a nice person. By the way, can I have some pocket money? Can you ask to give me some, Michael?
I felt uneasy seeing Sophia's flashy makeup and childish behavior. Not only that, but she couldn't speak politely and even begged for money. I couldn't stand watching my son fawn over his young girlfriend either.
Hey! Mom, isn't Sophia cute? Treat her like your real daughter and give her some pocket money.
I wanted to hit my son's head for his ridiculous comment, but I held back because Sophia was there. "I'm sorry. I don't have any cash on me right now."
You're stingy.
Sophia clicked her tongue and pouted like a child. To be honest, I wanted to oppose their marriage because of this situation, but I had to accept it because Sophia was already pregnant with Michael's child. I thought that even though Sophia was young, she would become a little more responsible once she became a mother, but my expectations were dashed. After getting married, my daughter-in-law started giving me various reasons such as severe morning sickness and feeling heavy to ask me to do things for her.
Hey, Nancy. I'm feeling nauseous, so can you go shopping and make dinner? I want steak.
You're feeling nauseous, but you want to eat meat?
Huh? Oh, it's for Michael. I'll only eat a little. Oh, and if you could buy some ice cream, that would be great.
I don't know what she thinks of me. I wanted to complain, but I didn't have any words to say to her ridiculous requests. In addition, Sophia asked me for some money because my son's income was low and they couldn't live a satisfactory life. I gave her about $350 every month. When I consulted with Michael, he said this.
Yeah, that's right. The store's business has been bad lately, so my salary has decreased. I appreciate your monthly support. Thanks, Mom. In return, we'll take care of you in your old age.
I didn't care about the old age talk, But it was true that my son and daughter-in-law were struggling financially, just as Sophia had said. It must be difficult for Sophia to work with her pregnant body. Although the $350 was my part-time job salary, I had no choice. We're family, so we have to help each other when we're in trouble, right? Sophia's parents lived far away, and she was still young. I thought that way and accepted her requests. However, my feelings didn't get through to them. I had no idea that my son and daughter-in-law would cause such an incident at that time. After my exchange with my selfish daughter-in-law, I became more and more frustrated. However, Sophia's pregnancy went smoothly, and she gave birth to a cute baby girl. Her name was Mia. "Sophia, you did a great job. She's such a cute little girl," I said to Sophia, who had just given birth. But I was surprised by her unexpected response.
Huh? She's not cute at all. She doesn't look like me. Her eyes are small, she's ugly, and she looks just like you, Nancy.
I couldn't believe my ears. How could she say such a thing about her own child? Her face is a little swollen right now because she was just born, but the swelling will go down soon. She has beautiful features and looks like you, Sophia.
Hey. Old lady. Are you saying that this ugly baby looks like me?
I was shocked when my daughter-in-law suddenly got angry. Then, my son started to agree with her.
Yeah, she does look like Mom. I wish she looked more like beautiful Sophia.
I was furious with their comments, but I could only hope that Sophia's emotions were unstable because she had just given birth and that she would eventually come to appreciate the baby's cuteness. Sophia continued to ask me to do things for her, perhaps because Mia was a handful. Meanwhile, my granddaughter grew up pure and healthy and began speaking at the age of 2.
Grandma, I love you.
I remember being so happy that I cried when she said that. Grandma loves Mia too. You're a precious little treasure. Mia was pure and obedient, so she seemed like an easy child to raise from my perspective. However, Sophia scolded the young Mia everything, giving in to her own emotions.
Ugh, be quiet. Stop crying. Can't you hear the TV?
Sophia, maybe Mia is crying because she wants to be comforted by her mom. Why don't you play with her?
Humph. She's my child, so don't tell me what to do. You old hag.
Sophia raised her voice and spat on me while turning up the volume on the TV. I was concerned about her lack of proper parenting, so I took care of my granddaughter at my son's house on my days off and after work. However, Sophia began to look at me with a nasty expression, and it became more and more obvious. When Mia turned 4 and became less of a handful, Sophia began to avoid me. One day, I visited my son's house with some delicious sweets as a souvenir and tried to feed them to Mia. However, no one answered the intercom, so I pressed the button several times. Suddenly, the door opened, and Sophia came out with a bright red face, furious.
You're so annoying. Can't you tell that you're being avoided?
Ha! Do you hate me coming here?
It's because of you that Mia is closer to you than me. You're a nuisance.
To my surprise, Michael was behind Sophia. He had also been avoiding me.
Mom, stop bullying Sophia. Don't you feel sorry for her? Don't come here anymore.
But what about Mia?
We're here for her, so you don't need to worry.
I was worried about my granddaughter. but I couldn't argue with her parents. I had no choice but to give up visiting my son's house. Michael, despite refusing my visits, made a brazen request.
Hey, I'm short on living expenses. Can you keep sending me money every month?
I thought that he wanted to use the money to buy delicious food and beautiful clothes for Mia. I thought it would be used for Mia's sake, even though I couldn't be with her, so I continued to send money. However, looking back now, I should have kept visiting my son's house no matter how much he disliked it. If I had done that, things wouldn't have turned out like this. When Mia turned 7, a terrible incident occurred. I sometimes had to go to work before 5 a.m., and when I passed by my son's house, the lights were on for 3 consecutive days, even though it was usually an unoccupied time. I became suspicious and visited my son's house the next day. When I opened the front door, an abnormal scene unfolded before me.
Grandma, help me.
Mia cried in tears. She was chained to a pillar in the living room. There was no heating in the room, and she was shivering from the cold. When I hugged her in a hurry, my granddaughter's body was skinny. She had lost a lot of weight since I last saw her. Her face was pale, and she had no color in her cheeks. "Where are your parents?"
They locked me up and went on a trip.
My granddaughter replied. Not only that, but she hadn't eaten or drunk anything for 3 days. I searched my bag in a hurry and gave her a bottle of tea to drink and put caramel in her mouth. Then I called an ambulance in a hurry. Mia closed her eyes in relief in my arms. I can't forgive them for doing such a horrible thing. I accompanied her to the hospital, but I couldn't get in touch with my son and daughter-in-law on my phone. My granddaughter's life was saved, but her nutritional status was quite poor, so she had to be hospitalized. I was worried, and then an even more terrible situation arose. After the hospital reported the incident to the police, I was questioned by a detective who accused me in a strong tone.
Did you cause your granddaughter to suffer like this?
I explained desperately. No, I lived separately and happened to find her. I was finally released 2 hours later. After that, I contacted my daughter Olivia, and she and her husband rushed over from the neighboring state by car. I entrusted my granddaughter, whose condition had stabilized, to my daughter and son-in-law and returned to my son's house by taxi. When I investigated, I found a travel schedule on my son's desk, and I learned that he would return home the next night. When I asked the neighbors around my son's house, I discovered some surprising facts. I went back to the hospital again, discussed with my daughter and her husband about future measures, and made a bold decision. The next evening, when my son and daughter-in-law returned home, I left the hospital where my granddaughter was being treated and visited my son's house. When my daughter-in-law opened the door, she frowned and crossed her arms.
What are you doing here? I'm busy, so go home,
she said rudely. Although I was almost broken by her impolite words, I couldn't back down now. I came to see Mia. Please let me see her. Sophia clicked her tongue.
Ugh.
She lied that Mia was with a friend. That's strange. Mia was supposed to be chained up here. You didn't even look for her when she disappeared? I showed them a photo of Mia when I found her. My son and daughter-in-law looked at each other with a darn it expression. Why did you treat your lovely daughter like this? Are you still parents? Mia was shivering from the cold and hadn't eaten anything. However, my son and daughter-in-law raised their voices and became defiant.
It's Mia's fault. We're raising her with love, but she's rebellious.
If we don't chain her up, she'll destroy everything in the house. We have no choice.
Sophia lied to make Mia the bad guy. They showed no signs of remorse. You two went out and played together until late at night and left Mia alone. How can you say that?
Sometimes I have to work late. Don't say weird things.
I know everything. You two are becoming famous in the neighborhood.
Huh?
I went around asking the neighbors to find out about my son and daughter-in-law's situation. Since I visited frequently when Mia was young, I knew many people in the neighborhood. Everyone was worried about my granddaughter and told me what they knew. Mia was once alone in a nearby park until late at night, and it seems that the house was locked. In the middle of a freezing winter, a neighbor who couldn't bear to see her in tattered clothes let her into their house and took care of her. Every night, my son and daughter-in-law returned home late, and they were seen playing at casinos and bars. Everyone in the neighborhood is saying that we have to do something about Mia's situation.
But if we give her the key, she'll destroy everything in the house.
That's not true, is it? You locked her up because you didn't want her to eat anything when she was hungry, right? Poor Mia's body is so skinny because she's not getting enough nutrition. I actually heard from Mia herself at the hospital. One day, she was waiting for her parents to come home late and became so hungry that she couldn't stand it, so she ate a cake from the refrigerator. However, it turned out to be Sophia's, and my daughter-in-law was furious. After that, they didn't give Mia the key and left her outside. When Sophia heard my story, she glared at me.
I can't think of Mia as cute because she looks like an old hag like you. If Mia is so important to you, I'll give her to you.
I was speechless at her ridiculous statement. Mia has been diagnosed with poor nutrition and is hospitalized. My support money wasn't for Mia, but for your own entertainment.
Humph. Children's money belongs to their parents. We can use it however we want. Don't be stingy.
Leaving a child unattended without raising them properly is a crime. Besides, the police have already been notified. My son and daughter-in-law's faces changed color for a moment when they heard the word police, but they immediately retorted.
It's not a crime. If we say that Mia is picky, no one will know that we're not feeding her even though she's skinny. Besides, the neighbors' stories are just rumors and aren't evidence.
They smirked triumphantly and said, "You don't even know that?" I recorded your statements just now. In addition, there is a person who testified more clearly than the photo of Mia chained up and the hospital diagnosis.
Who?
It was actually my granddaughter Mia who testified. I was almost arrested because I was suspected, but thanks to Mia, the misunderstanding was cleared up.
It wasn't Grandma who caused me to suffer like this. It was Mom and Dad.
It became clear that my son and daughter-in-law were at fault. My son and daughter-in-law lost their escape route and began to panic.
Wait a minute. Hey, can you tell the police that it was you who chained her up? That way, we'll be saved.
That's right. You're Michael's parent, aren't you? Parents are supposed to protect their children. Help us.
I was disgusted by their selfishness. I don't want to hear that from you. Who treated your own child so badly? I'll stop being Michael's parent from today.
What? Mom, won't you help me? Is it okay to do that and not see Mia?
I won't give Mia to you.
What?
I told Michael that I was cutting ties with him and that he had to leave the house where he and his wife lived. Actually, the house they lived in was my family's home, and I had lent it to them under my name.
I don't have any money, so I can't be kicked out. Please help me.
Michael was clinging to me and begging for forgiveness, but I coldly told him, "You're apologizing to the wrong person. Besides, Mia said she doesn't want to see you anymore. It's sad when a child gives up on their parents." I held back my tears, thinking of my granddaughter's feelings. I won't cry in front of these people. The police arrived at that moment. I had already informed the police of the time when my son and daughter-in-law would return home. They were taken away while crying and screaming, and I watched them coldly. After the police investigation, they were found guilty of high malice. The rumors spread throughout the neighborhood and were widely reported on TV. My son's name and face were exposed to the public, and he lost his job and his life fell apart. Now he lives on the streets. Sophia disappeared, but I heard rumors that she was working for daily wages in the city at night. Mia was taken in by me, and my son and daughter-in-law were sued for $100,000 in compensation and child support for Mia. I sold the house I had lent to my son and my own house, and bought a condominium near my daughter's house and moved in with my granddaughter. My childless daughter and her husband love Mia. I hope these peaceful and happy days will continue forever.
How was this story? Please subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.
The letter from my mother-in-law began with, "Please make sure my son doesn't find out, no matter what happens." It arrived a week after her passing. My mother-in-law had always bullied me since I married her son. I wondered why she had any business with me now. However, as I read on, I discovered her unexpected true feelings. And when I opened the safe indicated by the key enclosed, I was shocked beyond belief. I am Amy, a 35-year-old office worker. As I aged, friends and colleagues started getting married one after another. Feeling left behind, I was introduced to Jason by a friend. We hit it off immediately, bonding over shared hobbies. With his enthusiastic approaches, we quickly decided to get married. Jason had been living with his parents, but he moved into my apartment, and our married life began smoothly. We both work, so we divide household chores and split living expenses equally. Despite our busy work schedules, the time we have dinner together every evening has become a source of comfort for me.
By the way, are you free next Saturday?
Oh, you mean about your mother? The moment that topic came up, the warmth of the meal seemed to vanish instantly. It was like the atmosphere turned cold all of a sudden. Apparently, my reaction was evident as Jason immediately furrowed his brows.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable about my mom.
No worries, Jason. While putting on a calm facade, I couldn't help but let out a deep sigh internally. His parents' house is nearby, and his father passed away before our marriage, leaving his mother living alone. However, my relationship with her was far from pleasant.
Are you really 35 years old? You still lack manners. What kind of upbringing did your parents give you? My John is much more well-behaved.
During our marriage introduction, I spilled tea due to nervousness, and my mother-in-law mocked me while petting her dog.
You are not suitable for Jason. I am against this marriage.
With such words, she left me feeling hopeless. However, Jason said,
No matter what Mom says, I will marry her. I love Amy.
He boldly declared in front of his mother, and I was deeply moved by Jason's words. Despite his mother's objections, we got married. However, my relationship with her, which I had been worried about, began to significantly affect my newlywed life.
Jason is pitiful to have a daughter-in-law like Amy. I will educate her properly, so come over to our house on your day off.
My mother-in-law started summoning me to their house almost every week with such remarks. Jason came together, but he'd disappear into another room to sort through his father's belongings and leave me alone with my mother-in-law. And she would assign me household chores, nitpicking at everything I did.
Amy, the kitchen is dirty.
Oh, I was just about to clean it up.
The seasoning in the stew you made is too strong, it doesn't taste good. How many times do I have to tell you? John was much easier to raise.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely useless. Not young or pretty either. What did Jason see in you to marry you?
Her relentless criticism wore me down gradually.
Don't worry. Mom just doesn't see how great you are yet. I'll protect you, so don't worry.
His reassuring words on the way back from his parents' house always saved me. So, I tried to repair the relationship with my mother-in-law by visiting her alone on weekends. However, her attitude remained stubborn. I tried to keep a brave face, forcing a clumsy smile. Would you like to live together? Our apartment allows pets.
Live together? No thanks. I'm with my dog, so it's better to live alone.
Her words made me bite my lip in frustration as she petted her golden retriever. I had invited her to live together several times, but she refused every time, due to my existence. From the perspective of outsiders, it must have seemed like a very strained relationship between a daughter-in-law and a mother-in-law. At first, I tried to make it work. However, no matter how much I tried to reach out, my mother-in-law's cold attitude only escalated. Despite my efforts to improve myself, I realized that I was simply being bullied by my mother-in-law.
Women like you are a disgrace to our family. Just divorce and leave.
When she started saying that, I reached my limit. I began to despise my mother-in-law, reducing my visits to her house and maintaining a superficial relationship with her. However, after 3 months of marriage and just when I thought I had come to terms with my relationship with my mother-in-law, my husband's attitude began to change.
Damn it. Why is it always me?
It seemed that he was having trouble at work. For some reason, he started taking out his frustration on me and things around the house. One day, after ending a call with his boss, he suddenly slammed the mugs we bought together during our dating days onto the floor, shattering them into pieces with a loud crash. As I picked up the broken fragments, I couldn't help but sigh. Oh, why did things have to turn out like this? Where is the kind-hearted him? Lately, Jason's outbursts have become a daily occurrence. The first time I witnessed his behavior made me paralyzed with fear and unable to move. Music boxes bought during our dates and baccarat glasses worth $700 were destroyed. However, I couldn't say anything back. Because when I had confronted him about his behavior before, I had been kicked out of the house. I had to wait for Jason to open the door that he slammed shut, pounding on it. The fear from that moment lingered in my mind, and I simply endured in silence until the storm passed.
This isn't fun. I'm going shopping to blow off some steam.
Wait, you're going out again? Didn't you go yesterday and the day before?
Shut up. Stop nagging me all the time.
But, you haven't given me this month's living expenses yet.
I already spent that stuff ages ago.
Even the part of his salary that he used to give me at the beginning of our marriage was now being spent entirely on his hobby of collecting designer goods, and it puts our finances in a precarious state. Since Jason had lived with his parents before, he had been spoiled by them and had no sense of financial responsibility. After marriage, I explained that life costs money, but it didn't seem to resonate with my spoiled husband.
Instead of relying on me for living expenses, go earn more money yourself. How useless you are.
He yelled at me strongly, stormed out of the messy living room, and didn't come back that day. He left me alone, and as I tidied up the room, I found myself shedding tears. I never knew he was like this. I regretted my lack of judgment in choosing a partner, but it was too late to dwell on it now. I hoped to have a proper conversation with my husband and make things better, but I didn't even feel like I could suggest that. Even if I wanted to talk to someone, my closest confidant was my mother-in-law, so she probably wouldn't listen. I felt lost, so despite it being early in our marriage, I found myself considering divorce already. However, just as I began to think about it, an incident occurred. What? My mother-in-law? Seeing the message from Jason during work, I immediately left the office. It was because my mother-in-law, who had been happily walking John just a few days ago, had suddenly passed away. I couldn't get along with my mother-in-law until the end. Although I loathed my mother-in-law, I realized that she was no longer there and it filled me with sadness and regret, and wondering if there was something more I could have done. When I arrived at the hospital, my husband was by my mother-in-law's side, visibly shaking. She had slipped on the stairs, hitting her head hard, resulting in her passing away. Instead of Jason, who was overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events, unable to do anything, and left all the funeral arrangements to me. I took on the responsibility of organizing the funeral as a form of atonement, both for Jason and for my late mother-in-law. I tirelessly worked through the wake and the funeral day, while Jason merely delivered the eulogy. During the funeral, amid the chants of the Buddhist priest, he seemed drowsy, dozing off intermittently. Despite this, he engaged in unnecessary chatter with his maternal relatives, mentioning the strained relationship between me and my mother-in-law. Consequently, I endured the cold stares from those around me, spending agonizing hours, so I couldn't properly bid farewell to my mother-in-law. Then, the day after my mother-in-law's funeral.
Divorce me.
What? Still unable to accept my mother-in-law's passing, my husband suddenly handed me divorce papers.
I only married you for the money, Amy. But now that my mom's inheritance is coming in, I don't need you anymore.
I couldn't hide my shock and disbelief at this matter-of-fact revelation. You never cared about me? You said you loved me.
Huh? That was obviously a lie. Who would marry an ugly old hag like you out of love?
That's cruel.
Cruel? Look who's talking. Thought you had a stash of cash saved up since you're past your prime, but turns out you're not that loaded. Plus, you're stingy. I've been fooled by you completely.
He glared at me as if I were something repulsive. His words were so shocking that I could only stand there, deeply wounded.
Then, sign this and mail it to my parents' place. I'm outta here.
He thrust the divorce papers at me, walked out of the apartment, and never returned. Left abruptly alone, I couldn't make sense of my feelings. Before I knew it, tears were streaming down uncontrollably. It has been a week since my mother-in-law's funeral. Besides the absence of my husband, life had returned to its usual routine, and I resumed work at the office. The busyness of work helped me forget unpleasant things. Amidst those busy days, I was contemplating divorce from him positively. It feels like there has been nothing but hardship, but let's forget everything and start over. However, right after making that determination, something happened. One day, when I got home from work, I found a letter in the mailbox. Confirming the sender, I involuntarily held my breath. A letter from my mother-in-law. And it's addressed to me? Surprised that it was sent to me rather than her son, Jason, with a specified date, I opened the envelope nervously. No way, could something like this really happen? As I scanned the letter, I trembled with fear due to its shocking contents.
Please make sure my son doesn't find out.
The letter started with such a statement, and its contents were so shocking that it made me want to cover my eyes. There was a key in the envelope. Additionally, an address of a certain place was written, so I immediately rushed out of the house towards the specified location. It turned out to be a bank safe deposit box. And what awaited me as I opened the safe using the password and key written in the letter was a surprising revelation. It seems like what's written in the letter is true after all. In order to do that, I need to obtain evidence. To obtain what my mother-in-law had left behind, I visited my mother-in-law's home.
What is it? Did you bring the divorce papers?
I'll send them later. But more importantly, I came to check on John's condition. Since John had lost his master, he was sitting forlornly in my mother-in-law's room. But as soon as he noticed me, he rushed over, wagging his tail vigorously. It seemed he hadn't been taken care of properly and his fur was in bad condition. Can I take him home with me? Since the letter from my mother-in-law also said,
Please take care of John.
I asked Jason.
That's perfect. I was planning to dump him in a mountain later.
Then, can I take John's toilet and toys with me? Suppressing my rising anger, I asked and Jason happily agreed.
Sure, consider it a part of a gift. Take everything.
While I was loading John's belongings into the car, I discreetly collected the evidence hidden by my mother-in-law and left her home. I immediately examined it after I came back home, and I was faced with the reason for her sudden death and once again, tears overwhelmed me. Oh, how frustrated you must have been. I'll make sure to vindicate your grievances. Shaking with anger, I vowed firmly in my heart to deliver justice to the responsible. 2 days later, after getting everything ready, I called my husband to my apartment. Despite the funeral being so recent, Jason arrived dressed in flashy designer clothes and expensive-looking accessories that I'd never seen before. Where did you get those? I asked.
Oh, it's from my mom's savings.
His words ignited a surge of anger within me. But what about the money I paid in advance for the funeral expenses?
That's your responsibility as the wife.
Jason smirked, clearly not intending to contribute a penny. I mustered my courage and confronted him with the truth. I received a letter from your mother. It contained the key of a safe deposit box in the bank. Guess what was inside? Suddenly, Jason's arrogant demeanor disappeared and was replaced by a look of concern.
No way.
Ah, you're catching on now. I took out my phone and showed him photos of what was inside the safe deposit box.
Damn, that's where it was. I've been searching for it.
In fact, the box contained documents related to the family estate, including deeds and stocks.
Hey, those should belong to me. Where are they now? Give them back.
Jason edged me with bulged eyes. Sorry, that's not going to happen. It was your mother's wish that the inheritance should not be given to Jason, I declared.
What? What do you mean?
Jason demanded. You know the reason better than me. I said so and thrust a copy of the letter I received from his mother into his hands. Your father fell into the river and passed away when he went fishing with you, right? According to the letter, a few days before the accident, Jason sought money from his father due to the debt from extravagant purchases and was estranged from his father. However, shortly after that, Jason's father died under suspicious circumstances, and both Jason's mother and he inherited his father's estate. Your mother has suspected all along that you might have killed your father for money.
Stop spouting nonsense. Everything written here is a lie.
Jason shouted and tore the letter to shreds despite it's a copy.
You're spouting nonsense. Mom wouldn't entrust something so important to you, especially since you two didn't get along.
Jason exclaimed. That's not true. Your mother actually cared about me. Yes, my mother-in-law's coldness towards me was to protect me from my husband. Knowing her son's true personality, she intentionally acted mean to me so that I wouldn't become prey to such a man, pushing me towards divorce. Her letter expressed apologies and gratitude towards me, and her earnest wish for my happiness. My mother-in-law was truly a kind and righteous person. Yet, you went so far as to harm her for the sake of inheritance. Tears welled up in my eyes uncontrollably. However, my husband looked at me with cold eyes, sporting a faint smile.
Huh? What are you talking about?
It's unfortunate, but it's true. The footage from the camera my mother-in-law left behind is right here. I revealed that I had obtained the evidence, just as written in her letter. Jason had exhausted his father's inheritance and had started demanding money from his mother. Feeling threatened, she had hidden video cameras all over the house. I secretly retrieved them when I went to pick up John. When I checked the footage, I was shocked. It showed an intense argument between the two, and then Jason pushing his mother down the stairs. He repeatedly slammed her head against the floor as she begged for mercy, displaying a gruesome scene. Then, he smirked as she passed away. I could never forgive what you did. But before going to the police, I needed to hear it from you. Did you also kill your father? Realizing all the evidence were in the video, Jason unleashed his terrifying nature and glared at me with a demonic expression.
Haha. Yeah. I pushed Dad into the river.
You admit to everything.
Yeah, I did both. But I'm not getting caught by the cops. Now, give me the key of the safe and the evidence in the camera.
No. It's what my mother-in-law risked her life to leave behind. Why would I give it to you?
Haha. Fine. Then, I'll silence you until I find it myself later.
With a faint smile, he approached me. Stop it. Don't commit more crimes.
Shut up.
Suddenly, he grabbed me from behind, choking me.
Go to hell.
However, suddenly John tackled him to free me. John. Thank you. I hugged him tightly. As Jason stumbled to his feet, he grabbed a golf club from the corner of the room. But then, faint sirens could be heard from outside.
Huh? Cop cars?
The police heard everything you just confessed. I said, showing my phone to him. Actually, while he wasn't looking, I dialed 911 and kept the call connected on my smartphone the whole time. Suddenly, my husband lost all his bravado. He dropped the golf club and fell to his knees, his face turning pale.
Amy, please, tell them it was a mistake. My life will be over if it goes on.
After taking the lives of your own parents, it's too late for regrets now. Besides, I secretly installed hidden cameras in this room too. I'll hand those over to the police as evidence.
No. I finally got my hands on the money. I don't want to be caught.
He then started crying loudly like an unruly child, but I couldn't sympathize with such a sight. I handed over all the evidence and my husband to the police and watched them leave with John. Afterward, Jason's series of crimes were confirmed, and he went to prison. He'll never come out again. Our divorce went through smoothly, and I claimed $30,000 as compensation and the funeral expenses I had paid up front for my mother-in-law from him, through a lawyer. According to the will found in the safe, my mother-in-law's estate went to her relatives. Surprisingly, she left instructions in her will to give money to John and me as well, and I received the money from her relatives along with their apologies. After everything was settled, I visited the graves of my in-laws to report back, and it felt like I heard my late mother-in-law's voice saying, "Thank you, from heaven. I will continue to live happily with my dear family, John, from now on."
How did you like this video? Please subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.